I tried to review Warhammer 40k Boltgun. Another game that's giving us sweet memories of the 90s, which I have no memories whatsoever. Being born in 95, I should have somehow had some memories of the games of the 90s, like Duke Nukem, Doom, or any FPS games from the 90s. But I don't. I spent most of my childhood watching cartoons or anime every afternoon and spending time with my dogs whilst eating dirt in the weekends. Boltgun is my introduction in this type of games. And by the Holy Emperor, it was an introduction like in no other. Oh damn! I love the I love this! Oh, it's turning! Nice! Is this how video games before? Oh no. Brother! Brother, what happened to you, brother? Oh god. I shall avenge you. The main reason why I didn't play any classic FPS, even though I can do that now, is I don't really dig pixel art. It's also the reason why I don't play Terraria, Stardew Valley, those kind of games. I cannot feel any immersion when I play those games, even though I heard a lot of good things about them. It's not my cup of tea. But Boltgun, it's different. The carnage, the weapons, the carnage, the taunts. The carnage, the movement doesn't make you feel like you're an 8 feet tall chunk of a man covered with armor as heavy as a tank, and most importantly,
the carnage.
If a game makes me say nonsensical things like this, then the game is doing something right. I even started to like its art style. The intro cutscene is filled with character, that even though it doesn't say much about the massive universe of Warhammer 40k, you can feel that this universe is filled with horror, destruction, and war. If you're like me, a person with tiny bit knowledge about the lore of 40k or nothing at all, don't worry, the game is still good for us. This game is not just for Warhammer 40k fans, but for us as well. You'll just get confused a little bit about something or another, which a quick Google search won't fix. However, don't expect a mind-boggling story or a well-written narrative in this game, because the story is quite absent most of the time. Here, let me explain the story. We're playing as a space marine from the Ultramarine chapter, working under the supervision of the Inquisition. Go to this planet and kill every heretic. There, that's the story. This story is not the strong arm of this game. It's all about the gameplay. But the cutscenes and voice acting in this game is quite good, making me want more of it. Well, the taunts are there, just press T and you hear some majestic voice lines. The gunplay of this game, given that it's retro, throwback, whatever you want to call it, is good. I have never felt this kind of pleasure seeing the enemies of the Imperium of Man get shredded, seeing their pixelated bodies be blown into literal pieces, explosion of limbs and body parts rolling on the floor. It made me crazy. And it made me sound like a maniac. Oh, the Emperor! What's this? Oh, Kraken Bowl, whatever that is. Yes! Yes! Die, you heretics! Die! Who are you? That was really embarrassing. I sincerely apologize to those people who saw that on Twitch, and to you who are watching now. The weapons you can use to obliterate the mutant, the heretic, the alien, they're quite alright. The sound, the looks, and the function of the weapons feels right. The chainsword, the holy bolter, the shotgun, plasma cannon, heavy bolter, the melter gun, and the grove gun, they're fun to use. And the game has a system where enemies has different toughness, making every gun situational. A shotgun might be useful for one type of enemy, but useless to another. This system, I do not mind, but I get it if you feel like this is kind of forced upon you. Weapons are not the only things you can use to obliterate the enemies of man. My Lumcado has abilities. He can charge forward, running over small enemies, damaging them or killing them in the process. There's also this ability that when you hold mouse 2, he'll charge his chainsword and lunge at the enemy, which is to me a welcome addition to my arsenal. At first, especially the first 2 chapters, I thought the game was too easy. I was sweeping every corners and demolishing enemies without taking a lot of damage. Oh, how naive I was. The game's difficulty will increase as you progress. The enemies will be plenty and tougher, that I need to move constantly. The boss fight, on the other hand, feels like they have cheap moves, making it a little bit unfair. Especially the Lord of Change. That pink DPS he cast, I hated that. I cannot dodge that. I cannot even tell what's the tell or the animation that I need to watch out for. Maybe it's because every boss will spawn waves after waves of minions that I can focus on the boss itself. I really hate this type of boss fights because, in my opinion, it takes away the tension or the malice the boss has. Because 80% of the time, you'll fight their minions rather than fighting the boss itself. It's a boss fight. Let me fight the boss one-on-one. The challenge must be on the boss movesets and how I'll overcome that, rather than dying repeatedly on fighting their minions that are, by the way, are the same enemies I've fought chapters or even rooms before. And the bosses, they recycle them. I fought the Lord of Change thrice. I was expecting that they'll give us more boss to fight. This is Warhammer 40k. There's a lot of abomination in this universe. I might also add that you'll fight these waves of enemies when a purge sequence starts. It made me ask, why do I need to fight waves of enemies during a boss fight if I'll fight these enemies on a purge? To be fair, even though the bosses are a letdown, the enemy types is quite alright. I fought heretics, different kind of daemons, xenos, and Chaos Space Marines, which in hindsight kind of balances out the disappointing cast of bosses in the game. The levels are well designed. It looks that it fit the 40k universe. Collectibles are not just fillers, it helps you in combat, giving you time buffs and a different magazine for your bolter. A fantastic way to make me want to explore the map, by which makes me confused and lost in the levels, making me realize how much I was spoiled by the maps and minimaps of modern games. I cannot remember how much time I've wasted figuring how to progress through a level. And just to be crystal clear, this is not the game's fault. I know that this is how the developers intend it to be. This is a throwback. They want us to experience how games of old used to be, and a nostalgic trip for others. I totally get that. It's just I'm bad at navigating in games with or without the map. But a map, to be honest with you, could have helped a lot. Especially when I'm getting tired of being lost in corridors that looks the same. it pulls me out of the excitement I'm having playing the game. Near the end of the game, I'm quite exhausted. The game was starting to wear me down. The corridors that felt like endless maze and waves after waves of enemies did its thing to me. If the game stretched out more, I dare say it'll overstay its welcome. I'm glad and quite satisfied at the length of the game. Too short, not too long. A game that, for others, worth another playthrough on a much higher difficulty settings, which I'm open to, but not now. The game did feel a little bit exhausting at the end, as I said earlier, but the overall experience was good. Boltgun is an okay game. It served its purpose, a game that, I'm afraid to say it, kind of unmemorable. It does give me some wonderful experience of destruction and mayhem. However, it did kind of got old near the end. And the fact that they recycled the bosses and they also choose to design their boss fights that way. It is challenging, don't get me wrong. I just want my boss fights to be, well, boss fights. But the negatives are heavily outweighed by the pros of the game. I love playing Boltgun even though it's sort of a pixel art game. I loved it, and I recommend this game to people who are like me looking to play something different, or to people that wants to re-experience the games of old. You don't have to be a Warhammer 40k fan to play this game. I guarantee you that even you know squat about the lore of this universe, this game will give you an evil grin every time you slay a heretic or a demon. I highly recommend it to you ladies and gentlemen who made this far in this video to try this game out. It's cheap and it will be worth your time and money. And that song slams, by the way.